Jean Baudrillard's Simulacra and Simulation is one of the most profound critiques of how modern society interacts with reality through symbols, images, and representations. Baudrillard, often regarded as a key figure in postmodern philosophy, explores how we've moved beyond just representing reality into creating entirely new realities that, paradoxically, obscure and replace the real. He frames this phenomenon in terms of three key stages of the simulacrum, and today we're going to explore each one in depth, using real-world examples to understand their relevance. Baudrillard begins by outlining the first stage of simulacra, the pre-modern period of representation. Here, symbols and representations are faithful reflections of reality. They function as mirrors, pointing directly back to a tangible, concrete reality. For example, in medieval religious art, an icon of the Virgin Mary wasn't just an aesthetic object. It was understood as a direct reflection of a spiritual truth. The image had meaning because it was tied to a larger, grounded reality. Even in economic systems, objects like coins carried value tied to something material, like gold reserves. The second stage, which aligns with the rise of industrial capitalism, marks a distortion. Here, representations start to obscure or exaggerate the reality they reflect. Baudrillard describes this as the point where symbols become less about what they represent and more about manipulation. A classic example can be found in advertising during the 20th century. Think about the rise of the Marlboro Man. This rugged cowboy, used to sell cigarettes, had little to do with the actual product. Cigarettes are a commodity, but the Marlboro Man created an image of freedom, masculinity, and rebellion. Over time, the ad campaign distorted the product's association. People weren't just buying tobacco, they were buying into a lifestyle and an identity. This stage of simulacra is about selling symbols as much as selling goods, and it's where the process of detachment from reality begins. The third stage, hyperreality, is where Baudrillard's work becomes both disturbing and fascinating. Here, symbols no longer reference any reality at all. They become self-referential. They don't just distort reality, they replace it. This is hyperreality, where the map becomes the territory and the simulation becomes more real than the real. One striking example is the rise of reality television. Shows like Keeping Up with the Kardashians construct a world that's supposedly real, but the events are meticulously staged, edited, and scripted. The Kardashians' world isn't real life, but it becomes a hyper-real world that viewers accept and even emulate. Their lifestyle, their brands, their public personas, all exist in a feedback loop of simulation. The show doesn't represent reality. It generates a hyper-reality that millions consume as if it were authentic. This process has escalated even further in the digital age, with social media as a prime engine of hyper-reality. Platforms like Instagram are saturated with hyper-real content. A vacation photo, for example, isn't just a memory. It's curated, filtered, and captioned to fit an aesthetic. The photo becomes less about the actual experience of the vacation and more about the image's performative value. This shift not only influences how we present ourselves, but also how we perceive and experience the world. Experiences are filtered through the need to document and share them, making the simulation of the experience more real than the experience itself. To understand the significance of Baudrillard's critique, let's apply it to economic and cultural systems. Consider the stock market, which has become a hyper-real representation of the economy. Stocks are no longer valued purely based on a company's tangible assets or productivity. Instead, they're driven by speculative symbols, brand power, consumer confidence, and media narratives. The market becomes a self-contained simulation, influencing real-world economies and lives, yet detached from any tangible reality. This phenomenon isn't confined to economics. It's deeply embedded in cultural practices and social structures. In politics, for instance, campaigns are often more about imagery and branding than policies. A candidate's persona, carefully crafted through media appearances, becomes more influential than their actual governance. Think about how slogans like "Make America Great Again" or "Yes, We Can" encapsulate entire movements. These slogans create powerful emotional responses, but their actual ties to material outcomes or policy realities can be tenuous. In this way, political campaigns function as hyper-real spectacles, where representation overtakes substance. Baudrillard's work challenges us to think critically about our relationship with reality in a world dominated by simulations. It's not just about recognizing that some things are fake. It's about understanding how deeply our sense of the real has been shaped and often replaced by these simulacra. The diamond ring isn't just a symbol of love, it's a construct that's so embedded in culture that it shapes how we perceive love itself. Social media isn't just a way to connect, it's a space where hyper-real versions of ourselves interact, creating new realities that influence our identities, relationships, and aspirations. As we navigate a world increasingly shaped by simulations, Baudrillard forces us to ask, can we ever return to a real reality, or has hyperreality become the only reality we know? Is it possible to resist the seductive power of simulacra? Or are we so immersed in this system that resistance itself becomes another layer of the simulation? These questions don't have easy answers, but they're vital if we want to understand the world we live in and perhaps imagine something different. What do you think? Are we too far gone into hyperreality, or is there a way to reconnect with something authentic? How do you see Baudrillard's ideas playing out in your own life or in the world around you? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and thank you so much for being part of this discussion. If you found this exploration valuable, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Your support makes these conversations possible, and I'm deeply grateful to be sharing this journey with you. Until next time.